Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gargi Chaturvedi, and I'm a research intern at the Institute of Chinese Studies, New Delhi. It is a matter of great pleasure to extend a warm welcome to all to another edition of the ICS Wednesday seminar titled India and Taiwan's Converging Interests in Southeast Asia, the Case of Act East and New Southbound Policies. With the US-China trade and technological contestation serving as the major geo-economic backdrop in the Indo-Pacific region, Southeast Asia is increasingly becoming a critical point of convergence for both India and Taiwan. Today's seminar will explore the converging interests between India's Act East policy and Taiwan's new southbound policy in Southeast Asia within the current geo-economic climate. Having been implemented independently from each other ever since their conceptualization, the Act East policy and new southbound policy today are moving towards greater alignment, particularly in the context of Indo-Pacific cooperation and the ASEAN Outlook on the Indo-Pacific. The seminar will explain the current geo-economic climate that is driving these changes, identify new frontiers of cooperation between New Delhi and Taipei in Southeast Asia, and will also enumerate the challenges that stakeholders in the Indo-Pacific face as they try to foster deeper cooperation. The speaker for today's seminar is Dr. Carl Chi Leong Lee. He is a senior lecturer at the Institute of Chinese Studies at the University of Malaya, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. He is also the advisor to the Taiwan Chamber of Commerce in Malaysia, expert advisor to Market Research Future, and editor-in-chief for the Scopus-indexed International Journal of China Studies. His research interests include China-ASEAN cooperation, Taiwan-Southeast Asia relations, Taiwan's new southbound policy, semiconductor diplomacy, US-China semiconductor geopolitics, and its impacts on Southeast Asia. His recent publications are Taiwan and Southeast Asia, Soft Power and Hard Truths, Facing China's Ascendancy, and Southward Bound, Examining the Regional Policies of Taiwan and South Korea. The chair for today's seminar is Dr. Arvind Yelleri. He is an associate professor at Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, and holds a PhD in Chinese studies. He is also a visiting faculty at the Futan School of Management, Shanghai, and an honorary fellow at the Institute of Chinese Studies. In 2019, he won the Best Courseware Projects Fund Award at Peking University. He has co-edited Tailspin, The Politics of India-China Economic Relations, published by Routledge in 2021, and authored China Inc. Between State Capitalism and Economic Statecraft, published by Pentagon Press in 2021. Now, before I hand over to the chair, I would like to ask all participants to follow a few housekeeping rules. All participants shall be muted during the seminar. Questions may be posted in the chat box along with your name and affiliation. Alternatively, you may also use the raise your hand option during the interactive session. You shall then be called upon to unmute yourself. Thank you. I now hand over to the chair. Over to you, Dr. Yelleri. Thank you.
Thank you, Gargi, for that introduction. And also I would like to thank you, Vikash and Snigdha, for following up the matter since we identified Dr. Karl to come and speak at the Wednesday seminar. This was for the last few months, we have been following it up. And let me also thank the honorary director, Professor Alkacharya, for giving us opportunity to have this panel. This is a unique panel itself because first of its kind, we are having a faculty coming from one of the toppest universities from the Southeast Asia, University of Malaya. And we are trying to expand our footprint, especially the ICS Wednesday seminar, by having faculty coming from Southeast Asia. And today's topic is definitely significant, but also very timely in the sense that this is a time when both India and Malaysia are trying to look at each other, trying to understand the significance and importance of each other in working together at the same time, using the lens of two important narratives over here. The first of the narratives is India's engagement with Southeast Asian countries, which started with the Lucas policy, and then we tried to change the dynamics by changing the entire fundamentals behind it and trying to make it more operative, more proactive by talking about how we can do it, actist, by making it more functional. This coincides with China's new Southbound policy, Taiwan's new Southbound policy. This is incidentally very important because in past 10 years, in the past president terms of President Tsai Ing-wen, she put a lot of emphasis on Taiwan's engagement with the Southeast Asian countries. This is a revision of the earlier Southbound policy, which was implemented in the 90s. So you would see that both these countries, India and Taiwan, are trying to revisit their engagement policies with the Southeast Asian countries, which signifies that how Southeast Asian countries and Southeast Asian as a region, ASEAN, have emerged as one of the top grossing interest among India and Taiwan. So as a result of it, that's where that were the reasons why we started discussing about the conference areas, India and Taiwan, and that's the result. Carl comes into the picture. Apart from Carl being located in Malaysia, University of Malaya, this is not just a coincidence. He also works with the ICS, which is a part of University of Malaya, Institute of Chinese Studies. So when I went there, I went there in the capacity of some kind of an ICS in Delhi, and then I was going to ICS in University of Malaya. So you will see that there is a lot of seamless, at least at the level of academics, connections between two of our institutes. And that gives us an opportunity to hear what Carl has to speak about. What are the significance, narratives, dynamics of, or maybe the conference areas of India's activist policy and Taiwan's new Southbound policy in Southeast Asia. So the floor is yours, Carl. Please feel free to use time. You have 45 minutes, and then that will be followed by question and answers.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Arvind, for your kind introduction of ICS, my ICS of University of Malaya. Yes, when I met you a few months ago, yeah, we talk about this seminar. So you gave me this title, is India and Taiwan's Converging Interest in Southeast Asia. Oh, it's well, I find it very challenging, yeah, for me, because there are two different powers altogether, and then Southeast Asian countries interacted with both of these powers differently. So, but after looking through a lot of things, and after taking some leave from my previous research on Taiwan and Southeast Asia, so I found that there are some quite good common areas in which India and Taiwan can work together in the Southeast Asian region to address not just the current common issues like climate change, but also others, as within the context of a U.S.-China rivalry, as Kagi mentioned earlier. So I will start with my presentation with just a bit of a yeah, maybe I just share my slide. Maybe can anyone share my share my slide? Yeah. Yes, I will start my presentation with a bit of a background, yeah, to see how India and Taiwan's relations with Southeast Asian countries, or even ASEAN as a whole. So can you go for the next slide, please? So very first background, like India is top 10 trading partner with ASEAN as of now. And also, but the thing is, India also have this widening trade deficit with ASEAN as a whole. So this is the situation that the both sides are having in terms of trade. Taiwan, meanwhile, is enjoying this trade surplus with ASEAN countries or Southeast Asia. So, and then one particular important point is that Taiwan's the ASEAN's imports from Taiwan is about 2 times as compared to what they export to Taiwan. So that means that Taiwan indeed has exported a lot of things to Southeast Asia as compared to the other way around. And then when go on further, ASEAN's top 10 import origin and 8 export destinations. This is for India, and then for Taiwan, is despite a very small island itself, Taiwan has become a sixth import origin for ASEAN's imports, and then the 9th export destination for ASEAN as well. So the thing is up, and then when I dig deeper into the ASEAN statistical yearbook, and then I found quite a very remarkable statistics. Like India, as of now, is not in top 10 FDI source for ASEAN. This is happening since 2021. The only one that I saw the number 10, in which India was the top 10, which is number 10 of FDI source for ASEAN is back in 2020. So about 4 years ago. And then meanwhile, I say Taiwan, a small island, it is still the 9th FDI source, 9th biggest FDI source for ASEAN, despite not having any free trade agreements with ASEAN, despite not even part of this dialogue partners with ASEAN. So this is the record, the FDI, the situation, the trend that Taiwan was in. At that time, in 2022, is about Taiwan's FDI to ASEAN is about 6.89 billion, as compared to India's around 2.02 billion back in 2022. So this is the situation about it. And then, of course, India, like I say, is ASEAN's dialogue partner since 1996. And again, like I said earlier, Taiwan is not even a dialogue partner, not even an official partner, not even the development partner for ASEAN as overall. So, but its heavy presence of Taiwan, especially in terms of the Taiwanese businesses and social networks in Vietnam, Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore, Indonesia, and so forth. They are all these Taiwanese businesses and social networks are, of course, what I mean is more of the Taiwanese businesses. They are taking advantage of the regional FTAs that work out between ASEAN and other external partners in Southeast Asia. So this is something remarkable. You don't have a very official cooperation between Taiwan and ASEAN, but yet its businesses are everywhere in Southeast Asia. And then on India itself, ASEAN India, have worked out on a lot of agreements here. They have trade in goods agreement, AIT-IGA, enforced since January 2010, and then they have ASEAN India trade in services agreement, enforced since November 2014, and also the same year, same month, there's also this ASEAN India investment agreement. So this all correlates with the whole agenda of within this ASEAN India framework agreement on comprehensive economic cooperation. So basically, the whole framework itself is for India and ASEAN to establish this free trade area, just like what ASEAN did with other partners, especially with China. So ASEAN China free trade area is a big one. So it's being getting bigger by every year, and then the magnitude is also much bigger than any other ASEAN's free trade area with free trade agreement with other external partners. Okay, could you next slide, please? Okay, yes. So converging interests. So let's go back. Coming to the converging strategic interests, I would say, first of all, India, like Dr. Arvind say, they have this 8 East policy under Prime Minister Modi, and then the new Southbound policy from Taiwan since former President Tsai, and now I heard that the new President William Lai is going to do this, to continue this, and in a different way that instead of just molded, focus on people-to-people relations, it will be President Lai will be going to reconnect back to the focus, the economic focus of this new southbound policy. So it's no longer just people-to-people relations as the core, but the economic cooperation is the core for the coming new southbound policy. Of course, Taipei side is still looking at the name for this policy, whether they want to keep it in a much more catchy way, or whether they wanted to make it a more legacy of the current president Lai. So it will need a different name for rebranding of the NSP. But overall, the core tenets of the NSP will be there for the new Taiwanese government. And so for ASEAN, of course, we are on the ASEAN Outlook on the Indo-Pacific. This is the outlook, the AOIP that has been actively pushed by Jakarta, by Indonesia. Of course, there are a lot of arguments behind it. There are a lot of criticisms behind it. Whether ASEAN really, as a whole, is really working or really seriously paying attention or implementing what is within the AOIP, or are they doing something differently respectively in their own ways? Because ASEAN is 10 countries, so each country may have a different interpretation of AOIP. Okay, so overall, with the converging strategic interests, of course, come from the greater geopolitical situation, which is the US-China rivalry. So what is happening under this US-China rivalry is the de-risking of China, de-risking China. You can see in Southeast Asia, this wave, de-risking China wave, is really serious, and it's really in a reality that's happening on the ground. You see a lot of capital investments drawing from China, and these are all either the foreign multinational companies or the Chinese companies. So these two sources of these two types of companies are relocating to ASEAN at a unprecedented level ever since China entered the WTO. ASEAN started to see the downside of their investments. But now we are seeing, after about 20 years, we are starting to see the return of foreign investments into ASEAN region, and in droves, in a way that a lot of foreign investments are going to semiconductor related industry, and also industries, and also those electrical vehicles, EVs. Some even trying to some countries like Vietnam, Indonesia, contemplating about the mineral supply for use. It can be used by the EV cars or other high-tech sectors. Of course, this is the old way. So now building this resilient tech supply chain has been the forefront of this US-led de-risking China, or even the European-led de-risking China. But the whole thing is, for Southeast Asia, it is about capitalizing this kind of wave to their own domestic interests. By that, it means that they may not be in line with what Washington or Brussels have in mind. So this is the situation in Southeast Asia. And then the other is combating climate disasters. Yeah, this is the thing that have been occurring in recent years. A lot of this Southeast Asia is no stranger to flood, typhoon, and others natural disasters. And with the climate change thing, the climate disasters now. And recently, yesterday, my new city just got flooded again. This is I think the fourth flood ever since 2022. So, and the whole university is flooded. So imagine the way. So it's a university where all the intellectuals, all the ideas, all the brains conglomerate in one locations. Yet we still having this problem of flood in our campus. So this is another issue they have been going. So and then the other converging strategic interest will be on the global pandemic. Of course, this is from what we've seen from COVID-19, and then of course many public health experts are talking about this possibility of having disease X in the future, which is even more alarming than COVID, more deadly than COVID, which may in the end strike the world in the future, and we do not know where. So this is what other Southeast Asian countries are also worried about, especially our public health administrators. And finally, the all long-standing problem, the poverty and malnutrition. As much as say most of the Southeast Asian countries are having less problem with poverty, but they are still countries, least developed countries like Laos, Cambodia, Myanmar. They're still having these poverty issues, and for the advanced developing Southeast Asian countries, another thing that is interesting here is malnutrition is still the issue for Southeast Asia. You know, imagine Malaysia having this malnutrition issue, and yes, Malaysia still have this malnutrition issues even in our urban areas. So this is the thing that even a lot of policymakers are still unsure why is this situation happening, even though Malaysia is considered an advanced developing countries, but with a most negligible poverty level, but they're still having this malnutrition issues. Okay, could you next slide, please? Okay, so after looking at the converging strategic interests here, so I table like 3 new impactful frontiers of cooperation. So I would try to, because after looking at the trade figures and looking at the trade trends between India, Taiwan, India, ASEAN, and Taiwan, ASEAN, we have found that it is arguably, let's say, difficult to, let's say, change the trade trajectory when India exports a lot of, for example, India exports a lot of, let's say, a lot of mineral oils, mineral fuels, precious stones to ASEAN. But ASEAN also somehow exported a lot of wholesale, the same, almost similar, mineral oils and fuels at the same time. So it's like the whole thing is the trade, the overlapping areas of trade between ASEAN and India is quite a lot. So as long as India is still having this still trading on these low-end goods, I don't think there will be any meaningful change to the India-ASEAN trade unless there's something bigger being done in, let's say, in the semiconductor supply chain, as I mentioned here. Yeah, as I put it here. So semiconductor supply chain. So why India can do that? Because India now with the assistance of Taiwan, they're now having this capacity to manufacture these mature nodes or legacy chips. So this is very important because Southeast Asia as a whole, as of now, doesn't have any of these chip making capacity. And of course, of Taiwan with a cutting edge chip production technology, they're most advanced with their most advanced chip making technology. It is possible. It is entirely possible to work with India to in the ASEAN region by capitalizing the ASEAN region as an IC packaging and testing region. The countries of Malaysia will have that, but I will not propose Malaysia as a place for India and Taiwan to work together. Instead, I will propose Vietnam and Thailand as the more suitable and strong partners for cooperation. The reason is that because Malaysian government has a very strict observance of a one China policy, so any cooperation related to Taiwan will not be meaningful and will not be going through going through any implementation process. So this is the thing. But Vietnam and Thailand are two countries that are so eager to work with Taiwan right now. And then with India's mature chip making capacity, it is entirely possible to have this India-Taiwan, Vietnam, India-Taiwan, Thailand triangle cooperation. You can start with talent cultivation to cultivate the best talents for the semiconductor industry. And these are best talents. We are not talking about these vocational talents. Their vocational talents may not be applicable for semiconductor industry, but semiconductor industry needs the best engineers, the top engineers, which India can produce. Of course, Taiwan can produce as well. So, but Southeast Asia will have harder time to do this because of especially for countries like Vietnam and Thailand, which they are still like catching up in this particular industries of talents here. So the Taiwan's, the one they have mentioned here is the Taiwan's upcoming industrial zone in Southeast Asia. So this is what the Taiwanese government is going to do. They have been earmarking 3 countries as the location for this, as the location for this industrial zone. So the it will be, the 3 countries will be Thailand, Vietnam, and the Philippines. So we can also see from the side, from these 3 selections of countries, these are the countries that are willing to work with Taiwan, and also much more willing to talk about supply chain security with Taiwan. So Taiwan is earmarking this. So this is the best place in which India can come in and work together with its own mature node chip making capacity and industrial talent, cultivation, and come and then pull up the resources for this industrial zone here. This is the semiconductor supply chain. So the other is the Southeast Asia or ASEAN regional AI development. Yes, like any other region, ASEAN is ASEAN as a whole. The ASEAN countries rather are all into this AI development. There are countries. Every country in this ASEAN region is trying to capitalize on the AI developments for their own upgrading of their national economies. So India already has a technical talent, a lot of technical talent base here. There's startups, and it's known for the startups for the high tech sectors. And then we have India is also an innovative country for AI development. Taiwan, meanwhile, is rebuilding. They are in the middle of rebuilding the entire AI infrastructure. So they are not content with the current infrastructure, because the current infrastructure could not really cope with the AI needs of the global world here. So what they need, they are building new flooring, new walling, powerful cables, cutting edge chips, of course, and then using new cooling systems. And then of course they also ICs, the integrated circuits, 3D packaging, to make sure that the whole processes for let's say the operation processes of our phones, our computers, our laptops are all at the best level, with faster, cheaper, and also more effective. So this is the situation in Taiwan. So we combine both India's startup experiences and Taiwan's AI infrastructural assistance. So it will be the best place for you for these two to come together, to work together, and have this particular cooperation in a particular region. It will be the Southeast Asian region, because the regions needs AI languages for Malay, for Khmer, for Thai, for Tagalog. So each of the country needs different AI languages, and also data centers. They are also being built around Southeast Asia, especially in Malaysia, yeah, more than any other countries. And then we also have memory chips now. Now, memory chips is also another thing, because Malaysia as a whole is also not just having this semiconductor complementarity with Taiwan, but it also has this semiconductor complementarity with South Korea. So what Malaysia, the Malaysian product is trying to that the Malaysian government is paying very serious attention right now is the AI memory. So AI memory USB. So you plug in the USB and then you can run the whole AI within that USB. So this is one of the companies from Taiwan coming in. It's a Malaysian. The boss is a Malaysian. So he's coming back to Malaysia to contribute and also to capitalize on the Middle East market for his particular product of AI memory USB. Okay, so this is the areas that India and Taiwan can cooperate on. And then finally, this is more of a DPI and TSI integration. So like I say, the DPI is something that is made synonym to India. So digital public infrastructure. So it's basically a digital network to deliver economic opportunities and social services to the public. And this is very, very important for developing countries. The whole MOSIP is a platform. We call it MOSIP. It's an open source platform for all the countries to capitalize on to develop their digital, let's say, the digital card, digital national identity. That innovator, that creator or inventor of that MOSIP platform came from the International Institute of IT in Bangalore, and then it's funded by the Gates Foundation. So it became, but this whole thing, MOSIP has been used now by Ethiopia, and then before that it was used by the Philippines. So this is why I put in here, Philippines is the best host for this DPI DSI project. So this is for the Indian side. So the Taiwanese side, they are now embarking in this digital social innovation, the DSI. Basically is like leveraging on technologies to address new societal challenges like climate change and others, but by molding these technologies are expected to change how human responds to societal challenges. So this is another thing. There's a DSI they're doing. So it's a very kind of systems integration of different systems into one, and then make humans do something, change their behavior to address certain societal challenges today. So as I put it here, the Philippines will be the potential host for the hybrid cooperation between this DPI DSI project. So for example, for India's digital relief payment and small base digital warning system, it can be used, it can be replicated in a larger scale than the current scale in the Philippines, as in using the national identity, but it can be used to larger scale for those rural farmers. These rural farmers, they need these weather monitoring systems. They also need weather warning systems, not monitoring systems, weather warning systems to warn them if there's a bad weather is coming, and then to warn them about the pests as well. So these are the things that Indian side can provide to the Philippines. And then the IOW system, this is a system from Taiwan. It's the weather monitoring equipment. This is basically the equipment together. It's a system of equipment you put together, and then use the data central integration and apply them with the local response. So the local will have to respond to it. So you have people. So you have let's say the weather warning system from India, and then with the integration of data and providing the local response from Taiwan. So the Philippines, those in the rural areas of the Philippines, will be able to benefit this immensely. Then imagine every village within the Philippines have this kind of cooperation. It will be massive throughout the country. Okay, so the next one. Yeah, of course I've talked about the background. I've talked about the converging strategic interests, and of course I've talked about the new frontiers of cooperation. They can be very impactful. for the three parties altogether, Taiwan, India, and Southeast Asia, or ASEAN. But the problem, of course, the challenges will be there as well. The challenges will be the overall, if we want ASEAN to be roped into this semiconductor cooperation, there's also one fundamental challenge there, is that ASEAN or Southeast Asian countries as a whole, or majority of Southeast Asian countries, I would say, are not really committed to this de-risking China. So basically, they see this de-risking China as part of the Western agenda to, let's say, to target China within the this kind of economic statecraft. So they never committed to this, and countries like Malaysia, they are so fiercely pronounce that they are fiercely neutral in its own terms. So basically, it means that Malaysia doesn't want to be caught in between ASEAN, between China and the US, and it makes us wonder how much Southeast Asian countries are able to derive in terms of the high-tech investments or even technologies themselves. So this is the thing. So the more now, what we see in Southeast Asian countries now is more about inducements of FDIs into their own countries. Let's say if they can make more FDIs, make more high quality FDIs into their countries, and then they upgrade their economy from there on. So it is more like more of a general approach instead of a very tailor-suited approach. Yeah, and then overall it's about Southeast Asian countries riding on relocation of foreign investments away from China for their own national economic or industrial interests. And then the other challenge is the question of achieving the critical mass to make sure this cooperation can go on for quite some time, at least. So this is especially true for the case of ASEAN-China cooperation. So I would talk about this later on. But the whole thing is that the sustainability of cooperation, of course, it builds upon a certain magnitude with impacts. It must be impactful. It must be within a certain magnitude for that to continue. If the magnitude is so small, and the impact is so low, so that cooperation will not withstand the test of time. So this is the thing that ASEAN have been seeing ASEAN's cooperation with other countries. So a lot of these stories have been recurring again and again because of why ASEAN in Australia cooperation is not as big as ASEAN-China cooperation. So this is the question has been asked by a lot of foreign dignitaries, foreign diplomats here in Malaysia. So, and then the other also, so overall, what India and Taiwan ought to do is to build the partnership ecosystem. It must be an ecosystem with receptive Southeast Asian countries or ASEAN countries. They are willing to cooperate with impactful and wide-ranging social actors in these countries. So it must be you build a smaller mass, two together, you combine two of these masses together, it becomes a bigger mass together. So this is something that I think other partners of ASEAN have not been able to grapple with, because they are doing it in isolation instead of working together as one. For example, in the US, Australia, even UK can work together as a three-party cooperation with ASEAN to do something bigger, instead of asking themselves why our bilateral cooperation is smaller than that of ASEAN-China cooperation. So again, the case of China here, like I mentioned earlier, is the reason why ASEAN-China cooperation is dynamic and huge is due to the partnerships between national elites, whether they are in the government, whether they are in the business, whether they are NGOs, or even academia. So they come together to work together with China closely, and then it builds the whole entire ecosystem. This ecosystem can last for quite some time, for sure. So this is from Malaysia, from the experience of Malaysia. This is what's happening here on the ground. Yeah, 10 years ago, we may not have this kind of ASEAN, that kind of a magnitude of ASEAN-China cooperation, or even that kind of dynamism. But 10 years later, we see things are happening in a different like that even ASEAN countries, national elites of ASEAN national elites in the political side of ASEAN countries are even, they themselves are also shocked or surprised by the level of this China-ASEAN cooperation, the magnitude of this China-ASEAN cooperation and their impact today. And then, of course, the third one is the China factor. So, of course, it's variations. Like in my book, Taiwan and Southeast Asia, like as Gagi introduced earlier. So this is the book that I mentioned that there is a set of variations, in terms of the observance of one China policy among Southeast Asian or ASEAN countries. So vis-a-vis their cooperation with Taiwan. So in my book, I put them into three categories, mainly three categories: emerging, traditional, and indifferent partners. The emerging partners: Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines. Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines, and then the Philippines, around there. And then the traditional partners will be Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand. Thailand and Singapore will now be at the most proactive among the traditional partners here to work with Taiwan. And then in different partners, they will have other countries of Southeast Asia. They do not need any cooperation with Taiwan, or even they do not see any cooperation with Taiwan as something bigger than anything within their as compared to their cooperation with China. So this is something that's happening. The three groups of Southeast Asian countries in terms of their observance of one China policy. By observance, what I mean is that how they're going to implement, or how they're going to do when it comes to one China policy. Are they going to strictly toe the one China policy, or are they more willing to make rooms to search for cooperation with Taiwan under this one China policy? Okay, so India, of course, has a close relationship with Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. So, of course, also increasingly having closer ties with Indonesia and Malaysia. So, overall, if you put both of these Southeast Asian countries together, so those countries, they really overlap between Taiwan Southeast Asian cooperation and India ASEAN cooperation will be Vietnam, Indonesia, Philippines, and Thailand, the most promising partners for a triangle cooperation with India and Taiwan. So harmonizing these two strengths will be vital in circumventing the China factor. So I think I will end my presentation here. So of course I will be more than happy to have engageful discussions with our Indian counterparts here.
Thank you, Carl. That was really comprehensive, because in recent times, if you start looking at Taiwan's approach and engagement with India, Taiwan started considering Southeast Asia as one of the common grounds or common region, common geography, and some of the areas you have highlighted have emerged as which will bring synergies for both countries, from Taiwan and India as well. So looking that aspect, certainly some of the points you have touched base, like you're talking about the climate, you're talking about the semiconductor industries, electronics, is really something which we have to think about, especially in Malaysia. The big conglomerates, tech giants from Japan and Korea have set up their R&Ds. Otherwise, Malaysia has outcompeted India, by attracting a lot of business from Taiwan. So I think that is also some of the areas we need to ask you some questions about, what is so specific about, Malaysia as a country, how you see a difference between, maybe this is a question you can take up later when we open up the floor. What do you think? What are the important, difference in narratives, approaches by both these countries? Because whatever you would reveal us over here, we might use it in some of our research, saying that this is the reason we need to accelerate or maybe intensify our engagement with Southeast Asian countries. So with that, thank you, Carl. Thank you so much. So I open the floor for question and answers. And I request everyone to be brief, especially avoid comments and ask questions as pointed, as brief as possible. Carl, why don't you start answering that one quasi question which I had asked you?
Okay.
What is an important differences for you? Yeah, you have talked about convergences, confluences, synergies, but if you, as an academician, can you just take a critical look at it and give us some kind of a wisdom, where who lacks what, and what should be the important focus of or lack and then focuses of these two policies?
Yeah, I think I mean, I can really see clearly from the Indian case here. I'm not an Indian expert. I won't try to be an Indian expert, but expert on India. But I can see what India lacks is the skill, the economic side of cooperation with Southeast Asian countries. So at this current stage of all these, like I say, the low end products, this trading of low end products is not really significant for ASEAN countries. They are just normal trading. So the thing is, that's why I came in with a way that India and Taiwan work together to insert India into this Southeast Asia via this semiconductor industry. So at least India has a role to play as a big developing country, which is quite different from Taiwan, because Taiwan is a developed nation, whether you like it or not. It's different. Their way of seeing things a bit different. So it's also part of the ways they couldn't Taiwan couldn't understand why certain Southeast Asian countries opt not to cooperate with Taiwan, like Malaysia. Malaysia is not really, to be true, Malaysia is really doesn't have any strong stance on cooperation with Taiwan. So it's, despite semiconductor is a very important, it's huge, and then Taiwan is definitely, when you talk about semiconductor, it's definitely going to be Taiwan. But to Malaysia's perspective, no, that's not the way. We can ask the Chinese to work together. We can ask other countries to work together, like European countries, Japanese government to work together on this. But this is the situation. But India can bring in the developing countries' perspective on on this chip making, especially this mature node, the legacy chips. They are legacy chips, but they are very important for our fridge, for our TVs. They are all impact our daily products. So I think what India needs is a really strong, impactful economic injection in this particular industry. I think the semiconductor industry is a good entry point for India.
Okay, and will Malaysia be fine we entering into semiconductor industry with Taiwan? Because we'll be stealing away some business from you.
The thing is, Malaysia is not going to cooperate with Taiwan anyhow. So
okay,
Malaysia, so I think the only cooperation that I think so far, I mentioned the one that I feel most will be Thailand, because Thailand and India can be competitors. Well, for Vietnam, I think Vietnam will be the most promising base, the partner in ASEAN for India and Taiwan to cooperate, because Vietnam has this particular packaging and testing. Malaysia has that as well. Malaysia even has this more advanced packaging and testing. But the thing is, Malaysia is not willing to cooperate with Taiwan. So the only thing Malaysia can do is to cooperate with India only. So if we want to talk about the triangular cooperation, I think Malaysia is definitely not the right candidate there. But Vietnam, yes.
perfect. Thank you so much. So we have few couple of questions pouring in. I'll give you a breather from my questions. I'll come back to you. Have really some tricky questions for you. But maybe Gargi, can you just take these questions from the board? I mean, from the chat board.
All right, sir. So the first question is from Mr. Rahul. He's asking, how do you foresee the Indo-Pacific cooperation impacting the broader objectives of the Act East policy and the new Southbound policy in the long term?
Well, yeah. Do you want me to answer the question now, or what?
You can take the question.
Okay.
There are only two questions you can do.
Yeah, because the whole new I'm talking about the Taiwan side. Yeah, the whole NSP is actually an initiative. You can say it's an initiative, or it's a policy rather, from Taipei to join the regional trade architecture, that or regional economic architecture that it has not been able to join. So by putting in NSP, the new Southbound policy, it's actually doing something that what the Indo-Pacific strategy have been talking about. So that is also the Taiwanese government also didn't also make it very clear, so they don't even hide it. So NSP is actually part of Taiwan's let's say policy to connect to the US-led Indo-Pacific strategy. So this is something that has been repeatedly being talked about by Taiwan. So of course, with let's say for India, the Indo-Pacific, India has its own Indo-Pacific interpretation. So it's much more closer to ASEAN's interpretation of Indo-Pacific construct within this AOIP, within our AOIP. So I think that itself is a harmonization. Nobody should be left behind. ASEAN centrality, ASEAN as a central, or as ASEAN centrality, like we want to call it. And so this is something that ASEAN is very comfortable with. Let's say as opposed to the free and open Indo-Pacific is propagated by Washington, and then the Belt and Road by China. So it's a bit different. So ASEAN's principles of Indo-Pacific the principles of ASEAN Indo-Pacific Outlook came from both US side and the Chinese side. And then India also has its own Indo-Pacific principles, and of course it's somehow very correlated to ASEAN. So this is something. So India is actually a very, let's say, it can be a very comfortable partner for ASEAN to work with, as opposed to, let's say, countries that have been nations that have been steadfastly saying that they are complying with the US-led Indo-Pacific construct, like Taiwan. So this is something that I think something that India can do, is becoming the middle person, the middle power. I mean, I would say middle power, the middleman, bringing in the ASEAN and different external partners of ASEAN as well.
All right. So the next question is by Mr. Rapai Malyakal. He's asking, can India understand the dynamic of dealing with the overseas Chinese business community?
Okay.
How to circumvent the current political rhetoric in the background of Malay experience?
Okay, yeah, this is one thing I want to clarify. Yeah, for overseas Chinese, I mean, these are all nationals of Southeast Asian countries. So I definitely I will be thinking about this, right? So instead of those mainland Chinese who came from China to settle down in Southeast Asian countries, I think the overseas Chinese will be those who are nationals of Southeast Asian countries, right? So we have to abandon the view that overseas Chinese are monolithic. They are not monolithic. They are quite a difference. Like you can see those overseas, like something I can tell you, the one very good example is the one from a friend from the business sector told me that, do you know, he always asked me this question, do you know that Vietnamese Chinese, they do not attend, they avoid attending events really organized by China and other mainland Chinese businessmen in Vietnam. but instead they will readily go to any event involving Taiwanese businessmen or Taiwanese government. So you can see this is Vietnam's situation. But at the same time, for Southeast Asia, like Malaysia, our overseas Chinese are much more positive towards China. So you can see the whole differences, of when it comes to this monolithic of overseas Chinese community. So I think India, so it's not really clear cut to assume that overseas Chinese will definitely going to be work closer to China than to other countries. It can be the other way, depending on which country of Southeast Asia we are talking about. We are talking about, yeah.
Right, sir. There's another question by Miss Chinmay, who is a doctoral candidate at Delhi University. Her question is, Dr. Kal, you talked about climate change and increasing floods in ASEAN region can be one of the converging strategic interests. So can you elaborate about the cooperation in this sector?
Okay, the one that I already here is one that I mentioned, maybe you roll back the slide here on the impactful frontiers of cooperation. Is it possible? Yeah, this is the.
So Carl, I think let me answer questions. I'm acting like a filler in between.
Yes.
So what is common between what Malaysia looks at India and Taiwan, what Taiwan is trying to extract out of its new southbound policy in Southeast Asia and looks India a part of it? What India is trying to do in Southeast Asia, Act East Asia policy, it wants Taiwan to play an important role. And then the biggest elephant in the room is China here. So all three stakeholders know that they are directing their policies towards China. I mean, covertly or explicitly, or whatever you can call it. My question to you is actually to make you a little bit uncomfort, is how Malaysia is going to deal with this problem. As you said correctly, Malaysia is in a problematic place where it is not explicitly go Taiwan way, right? Despite understanding that Taiwan is an important role and Taiwan is pushing its cards pretty hard. So what do you think is the policy options in front of Malaysia vis-a-vis Taiwan, not vis-a-vis China? Because you see in recent times, I have seen that there is because I was there in University of Malaya for a conference, and there was one interesting paper. How the parliamentarians are increasing their engagements with the Taiwan without making the legislature in a problematic phase, and the government even keeping themselves look awkward. So, it looks in a very difficult and dicey situation. What happens in India's case right now, the government of India is trying to look for avenues to work with Southeast Asian countries. And also we're trying to enhance the scope in two ways, one with Taiwan, one with Southeast Asia. So what do you think, considering these complexities?
The thing is, in terms of Malaysia case, is so the Malaysians, we have this so-called open policy of cooperating with anyone. Everyone is our friend. But the thing is, when it comes to Taiwan, we can cooperate as well, but it won't be the central government or federal government. It will be that's how the Malaysian government is allowing cooperation at the business level, and also the state governments coming in. Our state governments coming in to take this cooperation with Taiwan forward. And of course, it doesn't work. Until today, it doesn't bear any results. So because even though, let's say for example, if you want to do talent cultivation in Malaysia with Taiwan, cooperation with Taiwan, so you still need the approval from the Ministry of Education Taiwan, and then Ministry of Education Taiwan will normally ask the Malaysian government to sign, our Ministry of Higher Education itself to sign an MOU So no ministry in Malaysia is going to sign any MOU with Taiwan unless it's being given a green light from the prime minister or something like that. So this is or the cabinet itself. So this is not happening. That's why Malaysia is a very unique case in which Taiwan cooperation is like it is the by right Malaysia will be the most suitable country to cooperate with Taiwan, but it's not happening in this way. Instead, Malaysia is finding China for our drone development, for our EV cars development, for our other high-tech developments. We are now looking to explore rare earth mining in Malaysia with China, with Beijing. So this is not happening. So whatever we do, whatever it is, it has to be both ways. It takes both ways to tango. This is something that what Malaysia is comfortable with when it comes to cooperation with Taiwan, the Taiwanese counterpart is not comfortable with that. So what Taiwanese government wanted to do for its cooperation with Malaysia is not comfortable with that. So the story keeps on until today. So the situation is almost negligible development.
You are a part of a group who advises Taiwan. Okay, I mean in academia. So what do you go and whisper in the ears of Taiwanese actually? What you actually tell, explicitly with regard to that, you would not anyways, you would not say so, but there are limitations of Taiwan being explicitly accepted by the Malaysian politicians. So what is that middle way the academicians, researchers, think tankers are doing in Malaysia vis-a-vis the new Southbound policy? Because you can see that, there are certain limitations to the NSP in Malaysia. I mean, that is clearly visible, right? But when it comes to the AEP, there are no limitations. It looks like, we have greater acceptability, and now Malaysia is trying to look for its ways in BRICS expansion. So what has been your dilemma? What has been you as a researcher dealing with the Taiwanese? What are the prominent questions Taiwanese have in their mind when it comes to the fructifying the NSP?
Well, I will first tell you about how the Taiwanese want. They just couldn't understand why Malaysia is so hesitant to cooperate with Taiwan, while they are connected via the semiconductor supply chain closely, But yeah, they are still couldn't understand. And then when you go in deep in, delve deep in, is just about one China policy. The still thing. So the whole thing is our interpretation of one China policy is just almost similar with our observance of one China policy. Some countries in Southeast Asia have a less stricter observance of one China policy, despite having a very strict interpretation. But when it comes to observance, whether they really do what they mean, what they say, is up to another question altogether. But in Malaysia, we are almost very close to that. Yeah, so that's why the reason, so the Taiwanese counterpart will have this very, very unthinkable unthinkable view that why Malaysia is still shying away from cooperation with Taiwan. And then I think now Taipei is not going to wait for Malaysia anymore, because eventually at first they wanted to wait Malaysia until Malaysia is ready, but I don't think they are not going to wait anymore. So that's why they have been earmarking 3 countries as for their industrial zones. And then one of those administrators in the government industry in Malaysia asked me why Malaysia is not part of it. Well, I know. I will say it. I'll tell her this. So it's really not about economic incentives that's really driving, because Malaysia will think, I think our economic relationship, economic connection with China will be much stronger. So why not? Why didn't you? One of the this is the very general view of the policy, because why do you sacrifice a big chunk of a cake for a smaller chunk of cake. So this is the thing that's been doing. So, but I would say, in the terms of semiconductor, is entirely a new game. It's different. Semiconductor, you cannot take a semiconductor. Anyone who thinks that a semiconductor is like any other industry, where you can get the expertise from or technology from anywhere else by circumventing Taiwan. Well, I think they have to rethink the situation. Yeah, this is not. But our neighbors will not wait for us. Our neighbors are so, I would say, extending their wide hands, especially our closest neighbor, Thailand, which did not sign any agreement, any bilateral investment agreement with Taiwan for the past 24 years, if I'm not wrong. And suddenly they signed that in last June. So it is very clear they are targeting Taiwan semiconductor investments. So this is we are in a very heated competition, even though we are ASEAN fellows, but we are mired in a very competition when it comes to semiconductor investments. So we are really a cutthroat competition. Even Vietnam also trying to supersede us in their own way. So yeah, not to mention Singapore, which already has these factories building these chips. Foreign chip makers building chips in Singapore, but of course they have their area limitation because they are not big, they're huge. They're very small, tiny nation, so they don't have any land for this. But even though they are trying to entice TSMC to go to Singapore with the limited land they have. So this is the situation here. Yeah, so Malaysia policymakers should really look at what happening in our regional neighbors, our closest neighbors, ASEAN neighbors. What are they trying to do with Taiwan? Yeah. So in order to get a clearer sense of how things will pan out in the coming year or coming months, so it may be a very stiffer competition than the current stage. Yeah, so this is the thing that I think Malaysian policymakers should have paid more serious attention to Taiwan. Yeah, should have somebody to look at Taiwan's developments, especially the AI infrastructure development every month, because every month there will be new inventions being invented from current products. They invented new products based on the current products, just to cater for the booming AI industry or sectors. So this is the thing.
That's quite interesting. I thought it's only India who wants to be at the spot in the global affairs. But look at Malaysia. They have the strongest currency compared to the Indian rupees. They have a currency stronger than renminbi. Absolutely strong currency standing vis-a-vis USD also. So one of the strongest currencies in Southeast Asia. And what supports this currency is actually controlled inflation and control over the energy supplies, production and supplies. On top of it, Malaysia also boasts about the having the high-skilled labor supplies. And that makes Malaysia sweeter than India in global affairs. And I think then I don't know whether there are any problems Malaysia seeking the role in BRICS expansion. Okay. That's what I was thinking. There's one question coming up. It's not a question, it's an observation, and it's by Colonel Virender Sahai Verma, who says,
Dr. Yellery, we cannot hear you.
Yes. Dr. Arami is back.
yeah, so
suddenly slow down, and then I couldn't hear you.
Okay, you lost me. Okay, sorry. So you see, we are not at the sweetest spot when it comes to internet connections. Okay, what I was saying is that when it comes to Buddhist connection between India and Taiwan, what do you think these narratives of being Buddhist countries or traditions, is that really hold any significance between India-Taiwan relations?
Yeah, the thing is the Buddhists, I would say, for for those countries like mainland Southeast Asian countries like Thailand, Myanmar, this can be very a good point of cooperation. But when it comes to, let's say, to Malaysia, Brunei, they are all Islamic countries. So, and then the only Buddhist India countries are the Chinese. And then they have their connections with Taiwan. Taiwan's Buddhist organizations, they are very huge. They are huge in Malaysia, for example. They have 2 huge temples in Malaysia. So they are Buddhist. So Buddhist foundations, they're very rich, very huge. Yeah, but and then they have these pilgrimage trips to Taiwan every year.
I see.
Yeah, so the thing is, they are more like more like, if I'm not wrong, but more like this I'd say the Mahayana kind of sect, and then they are much more Chinese in a way. So this is the thing about how do we connect this facet of Buddhism with India's Buddhism, So maybe I'm not sure how we're gonna do this, but I would say the only thing that I can the only thing that I think is very, very promising is spices. Like I mentioned to you earlier, spice roads. But I mean, we don't need the spice roads. I mean, we don't need the road. And maybe sounds like the Belt and Road thingy. So yeah, the spices will be much more I say I mean civic, and much more non-religious, but something that Malays, Thais, Malays, or Philippines, they all will enjoy spices. So this is something like food, but it can be much more. It's much more correlated with Southeast Asia, because the Southeast Asia, apart from India, Southeast Asia also pride itself as the land of spices. So that's the thing that we can connect better than the Buddhism. So that is because Buddhism can be, it can end up, this whole cooperation thing surrounding this Buddhism thing can end up in a very religious situation in Southeast Asia, and it can be very, very very sensitive, for very alarming for Southeast Asian countries, Southeast Asian governments to really work on this. So I don't, so I would say spices will be much more, and it is much more importantly, spices are part of trade. So spices are part of trade. So trade, that's going back to the trade thing. So why ASEAN and China can work very well? Because of the trade, because of the magnitude of the trade thing. Yeah. So if India and ASEAN can work together to make sure that trade are really correlated with each other, then it will be very, very much more powerful than any other ideas, and then even more. So this is why I put in the fact of semiconductor industry as the entry point for India, to make sure we have exports coming from ASEAN, and also imports coming from imports from us, ASEAN's imports coming from India. So it will be a two-way. And then, so you can just imagine like India exporting some mature node chips to Southeast Asia. So imagine that huge potential and magnitude, the lucrative business, not to mention. It would be very, very maybe very, I would say, from Indian point of view, I think it would be very, very much more impactful for me.
Okay. Thank you, Carl. I mean, that looks really a good conclusion. If we do not have any other question, I think we can round it up. Just before we close, a couple of quick things. Carl, thank you so much for coming here. As I said, you're the first scholar, as far as I remember, my institutional memory tells me,
Oh, really?
24 years. You're one of the first speakers coming to ICS on Wednesday seminar, University Malay and Southeast Asia. So thank you for coming. So we look forward to you two again coming to one of our flagship forums, which we plan. Actually, for some reasons we have to change the dates, but we look forward to your coming here. Malaysia is also one country. Actually, I remember, it's only one country, where the Chinese the Indians live so happily and trade so happily, and there is no problem actually, right? The Chinese end up eating the spices Indians are selling, and otherwise also. So it's a truly Asia, Malaysia. So it's good to have you on board. There are many other projects which are coming up slowly where India seriously looks at Malaysia's role. If you remember, our external affairs minister was in Malaysia a few months back, and then the Malaysian prime minister visited India. It looks like there are a lot of complementarities we both countries are in search of, and NSP and AEP provides us much more grandeur space to come and work together. So thank you so much. On that note, I hand over this thing to Gagi, maybe. Yeah, she's the master of the event and show. So over to you, Gagi. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair. With this, we come to the end of today's seminar. We thank Dr. Karl and Dr. Rivalry for gracing today's seminar with their presence and for giving us their precious time. We also offer our gratitude to the audience. The video of today's discussion shall be available on the ICS YouTube channel. We would like to invite you to the upcoming Wednesday seminar scheduled for 23rd October 2024. Further information regarding the event can be found on the ICS website. You may also subscribe to our newsletter for regular updates. Thank you all for joining us today.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Arvin. Thank you all, Kagi.
感谢，感谢，感谢，感谢啊！好，就这样吧，哈，拜拜，再见。